Photo shoot.
Roger, Roger.
Fuck that bitch, try put the fee on it. Bet put the free on it. If it's about money, then we on it. Water on my neck, you can ski on it. You can't.
About this?
Well played.
Why can't you be like Lily?
To new beginnings and to making strides, big and small. From my family to yours, happy Diwali.
So Lily Singh decided to take on a commercial for Johnny Walker to sell Blue Label, and now the association has been made with Diwali. Now Diwali and Bandi Chor Divas have no association to alcohol, but the most problematic part of the commercial is this.
Some things never change, like awkward side hugs with uncles.
So those lines, those side hugs from uncles. Now, this basically feeds into the stereotypes that all South Asian men are perverted. Now, last year in 2020, we saw a rise of white supremacist women creating anti-content against Indian men, calling them perverted, etc. So as a South Asian woman, Lily, you should think twice before taking on these commercials and reevaluate the scripts that you write.
I am not here to come talk about the blessings of Durga Puja. I am not here to talk about Happy Navaratri. I am not here to talk about Divine Mother Goddess. I am here to talk about our fucking brothers and sisters are being fucking persecuted because of what we are celebrating. Why you don't speak about that? Why is that not what you're talking about? We fucking know what Durga Puja is. Talk about what the fuck is happening to people because of Durga Puja and because of ignorance. Talk about that.
People problems or Caucasian problems. They're just problems. Yoga offers universal.
What in the toxic positive gaslighting was that video? I've seen this attitude not only in the comment sections of my videos where I talk about the Western exploitation of yoga today, but also from a lot of Hindus, claiming that cultural appropriation doesn't exist because we're all one and the same. While that sounds very well intentioned, it's actually incredibly harmful and violent. It's the same energy as I don't see race. Because that naivety that our gurus had when they shared yoga and brought it to the West is exactly why this has become commonplace. That is exactly why yoga has turned into this. And that attitude is specifically problematic because on a video where I will give point A, B, C with evidence as to why Western exploitation is problematic, and you choose to hear why people can't do yoga anymore, that's not very yogic of you, when I literally did not say that anywhere. You are once again centering yourself and being willfully ignorant and silencing me when I'm calling out the destruction of my sacred.
Now, through Western colonialism, it's always been said that the Aryans brought in their chariots into India, but did they? Let's take a look at Sonoli site, which is found in 2005 in Uttar Pradesh, which is 75 kilometers away from Delhi. Now, the site belongs to the late Bronze Age period, part of the Copper Horde culture, belonging to the late period of the Harappan culture. The Sonoli site is also mentioned in the Mahabharatam Hindu epic text. Now, the site is a large burial site with over 125 burials dating back over 4,000 years. Now, the site holds both male and female warriors, showing that females were considered honorable and strong in the ancient Indian civilization. Now, the greatest find of the whole site is the chariot, which has been shown and analysed that it was pulled by horses. Now, the greatest thing about this chariot was that it had a reinforcement made out of copper, making it probably the fastest chariot unearthed across the world.
And that us Bengali Hindus actually use alcohol in our ritual.
So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. So, first of all, alcohol is not only done by Bengali Hindus, so don't count yourself so special about that. All types of Hindus do that throughout the subcontinent. And as you referred to me as you Gujus, yes, we Gujus do alcohol as well, but not to Lord Rama. Lord Rama is associated to Diwali, which derives from Sanskritam, Deepavali, which is the row of lights. Now, the row of lights are associated to 4 different deities, and none of those are Ma Kali, okay? And Ma Kali might be your Kul Devi, but she's the mother for everyone, okay? She's just a different manifestation of Shakti, of Devi.
Do I think it's satanic? Yes. I mean, look at the facts. First off, 8 people at least were killed.
Now, there's a reason why those 8 people were killed. Now, I'm not a doctor, but let's listen to a doctor.
These people were literally suffocating. To breathe, your ribcage has to expand, to allow the air into your lungs. When you're being crushed like this, you can't do that. When you can't breathe, the panic sets in, the adrenaline goes, and then you black out and you end up on the floor.
Then the Travis Scott concert itself. No, wait, this is a Travis Scott concert. That first picture I showed you was from a company called CERN, who was literally trying to dig a portal to hell.
Now CERN is not digging a hole to hell because hell doesn't exist. What CERN do is the largest physics laboratory. Now they study the tiniest particles of the universe.
In the middle of their portal was Shiva, the goddess of destruction, and their logo is 666.
Now you're actually thinking of the art piece that was given by India in 1960 to CERN with its association to work together, just like many other countries. Now let's look at the word Nataraja. Nata basically means dance, and Raj comes from Raja, meaning king, so king of dances. Now the reason why Nataraja was given was due to Carl Sagan's metaphor of Nataraja's cosmic dance and the modern study of the cosmic dance of subatomic particles. Now with Nataraja there are various dances. There's dances of happiness and there's also a dance of destruction because the universe does have to end one day. But he stands here on a dwarf, which is basically stepping over ignorance. And just there we've got Agni, which is fire, which symbolizes force of creation and destruction. Now you can see him around a ring of fire, which is the constant creation and destruction of the universe. So he's also points at a sutra. Basically, a sutra is a manual of Hinduism. So you have the Yoga Sutras to basically help you to liberate yourself. Now he also has water coming out of his head to basically symbolize water, the source of life. Now you also see a damru there, which is like a mini drum. Now that basically represents rhythm and time. And it is said that when it was played for the first time, that's where the Sanskrit language and the Tamil language came from. But definitely not demonic, just Hinduism.
I said, girl, you need a hot boy. She said, you.
So did you wake up this morning and think, hey, I'm going to piss off the Hindu community and go on TikTok and make bold statements like, I don't know why the fuck people think black people can't practice Buddhism or Hinduism. And below that, right, like we create that shit, but okay, correction, you did not create Hinduism, but a Brahma created Hinduism and gave it to the Hindus through the rishis, which is found through the Vedas. Now, if you want to follow Hinduism, there is no problem in following Hinduism for any race, but it doesn't work by just smacking the bindi on your forehead. Now, find yourself a good guru to guide you through Hinduism, to make you understand how Hinduism works. Now, here's an example of a black Hindu. So you've got to hear this out. So this is complete nonsense. So this content creator, first of all, has a lot of Hindu content creators blocked because she has been called out on her propaganda. Now she mentions that Karma comes from the Upanishads. Yes, it's mentioned there, but it's also mentioned in the Vedas, which have been astronomically dated and checked with the tribes that have been mentioned in those scriptures, and they are part of the Indus Valley civilization, and those genetics are found throughout the subcontinent.
We would have a Karma festival.
Now she mentions hell. Now there is no concept of hell. Now within Hinduism you've got lokas, 7 above, 7 below. So you guys probably know them as 7 heavens, 7 hells, further down the line in history. Now it's got to do with your level of consciousness, how you go up and how you go below, based on reincarnation. Now there are 3 states of karma. There's the karmas from your past life, which are stored, the karmas that you are right now with your current nature, and the karmas that you gain by the actions you take.
Is now compounded by Western capitalism.
This is William Bentinck. He was sent to India in 1828 by the British India Company. Now the aim was to basically bring in Christian morals into India, so you're changing the mindset of the people. Now his presence was there to basically change the whole education system in India, as well as making a more of a presence for the church, as well as making it much easier for missionaries to go around and convert the people. Lastly, the colorism really didn't exist in India, and it came through European Christianity into India by changing the whole education system.
That's what I've been trying to explain. You just shouted out a connection that I was gonna have in one of my videos. Nagasaki.
Hey bro, so it's not nega, it's naga, naga. So this is a fine example of the West, and especially America, taking Hindu terms and trying to build their own concepts and philosophies behind it. Now it has nothing to do with your race. It's got to do with multiple dimensions. Let me try to explain to you. Now, within Hindu cosmology, the universe is divided into three worlds. Now, you've got the upper realms, you've got the Prithvi, the earth realm, and you've got the lower realms, which is where the Nagas are. Now, the upper world is divided into 7 different dimensions, and so is the lower world, which is divided into 7 different dimensions. Now, through Hindu practices, for example, yoga and tantra, etc., you have the ability to go all the way up, to break yourself from the reincarnation cycle and set yourself free so you don't born back into the earth realm. Now, different Hindu scriptures talk about these dimensions in a different way, and I'll try to do a series for you trying to explain each dimension and what happens at that level. Now, the best way to learn is from a Hindu guru. Now, they will teach you the correct principles and the correct concepts behind Hinduism, and you will also be part of the Hindu lineage. Now, if you can't do that, you can always learn the Bhagavad Gita, which is a scripture for all mankind to help them to set them free from the reincarnation cycle.
Besides, you're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
So in 1960s, Hindus found their most ancient city, Dwarka, which was said to be submerged underwater when Krishna left Earth and the dark age of mankind began on Earth. Now, further on down the line in 1980, more excavation was carried out in the city and the measurements were taken. Now, these measurements actually fit the measurements mentioned in the scriptures of the Hindus. Now, excavation was put on hold due to budget restraints, but this city has been recognized under the United Nations. Ever since 1980, mosques have been popping up on the islands by the Waqf Muslim Board. Now, just this week, the Muslim organization has put a claim in for the 2 islands, probably to restrain Hindus from carrying out any further work in the future.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Well, that's a great question. Why would Kali, meaning black, be blue?
What are you on about? Kali comes from Kal in Sanskrit, which means time in darkness. It's got nothing to do with being black. And I don't think you're Hindu, but I could be mistaken. But let's take a quick history lesson for yourself. Now, this is Saint Javier, who came over during the colonial period to India and carried out an inquisition on Hindus being heathens. Here's some of the statements he had to say. Indians, being black themselves, consider their own color the best. They believe that their gods are black. The great majority of their idols are as black can be. They seem to be as dirty as they are ugly and horrible to look at. I believe you made this video as well, talking about the education system and this article. Now let's give you a quick education lesson on where this came from. Now, this is Sir William Bentinck. He was sent to India in 1828 to basically do a reform into the whole education system of the Hindus. The plan was to bring in Christian morals into India and put a better foothold for the church, as well as allow missionaries to go in the future to go and convert the Hindus, which they consider Hindus. So if you do follow that ideology, recheck that and reevaluate your life. Peace.
Yeah, I like food. Do you like it too?
So this young girl has excessive hair growth, and this is quite common within South Asian women as well as Middle Eastern women and sometimes Greek and Spanish women. Now, a lot of parents don't get this sorted out at a young age, and there is a reason behind it. As you can see, if soft fine hair is taken out unnecessarily, it does grow back stronger and darker, and this is the reason why parents don't get their child into threading or waxing at a young age. Now, what is disturbing is the comment section. It's majority filled with white men making hateful comments like who doesn't like food with a bearded emoji. Now, there are also people of color there making comments, and there's also women as well. And as you can see, there's 50,000 likes on this. Some of you really need to sort yourselves out, coming on TikTok, going on a child's TikTok and basically making these hateful comments that will fuck up her mental health in the future.
Hello my friend, that is not what the tweet said, and that is not the argument that the individual is pushing forward.
Namaste my friend, that's exactly what the tweet is saying. Muslims are not a minority in India. There are 210 million of them. They are indigenous to India. When you make a statement, you say Indian Muslims are indigenous to India. You do not say Muslims are indigenous to India. There is such a thing called indigenous religions. Now, Hinduism is the indigenous religion of the Indian subcontinent. Now, I'm not too shocked about this response because you keep pushing the Aryan invasion theory on Hindus. Now, just last week after the Whoopi Goldberg incident, you actually claimed that the Aryan race was created through Nazism in Germany, but you keep pushing the theory onto Hindus. Now, if you need a better breakdown on the terminology of indigenous and a correlation of being continuation, you can refer to the United Nations website where they have a better breakdown of it. And lastly, where he's referring to Muslims are indigenous to India, he ended with the third populous Muslim country in the world. Now, I believe not, but India is not a Muslim country. There seems to be a bit of a confusion on the word indigenous and how it should be used and in what context. Now, there's two ways of looking at it. You have the indigenous people and you have an indigenous religion, something that occurs naturally in a native place. Now, this is from the United Nations website. Now, as for example, self-identification will fall into genetically by the people, but historically continuation, that will be based on religion. Now, for example, Hinduism. Hinduism is a predominant and indigenous religion of the Indian subcontinent. And when you're looking at this in the context of people, of course, Indian people, Bangladeshi people, Pakistani people, Sri Lankan people, as well as Nepal, etc. would be indigenous. But when you're looking at this in a religious context, it would be Hinduism and all the religions that are associated to Dharma. Now, saying otherwise is the eradication of native indigenous religions.
Different racial categories were socially constructed. We had the idea of an Aryan race.
So that is stating that the Aryans was created by the Europeans and specifically by the Germans. And as I've stated previously, that this happened once the Europeans came across the Hindus and found the Sanskrit language, and now they found that those languages were linked to the Sanskrit language, hence the Aryan race was created.
I believe that there was a nomadic community living in the Pontic-Caspian steppe around 5,000 years ago. And I believe that they started to migrate into Europe, into Central Asia, and then South and West Asia.
This whole north region is known as Aryavarta in the Hindu scriptures. Now, most of the people in this region speak languages that are more closely related to Sanskrit.
European, it likely existed in the Pontic-Caspian steppe around 6,000 years ago, and then spread across Europe and Asia.
Now, the Hindu scriptures, the Vedas, are written in Sanskrit that are meant to be derived of this Proto-Indo-European language. Now, in the Hindu scriptures, it mentions the Saraswati river flowing, and this is said to be river flowing over 6,000 years ago, and again mentioned in Sanskrit. Now, currently there's a dispute by Western academia on the R1A haplogroup because it's connected to those people that speak this Indo-European language. Now, it has the highest frequency and oldest clade in India and Pakistan. Now, lastly, going right back to this dispute where Pari thinks that I misinterpreted Khalid's tweet. Maybe I misinterpreted Jai Shri Ram is a terror cry. Do we say that about your religion? Where do the different variations of skin tone come from within the Indian subcontinent? Now, this was used by the Europeans to push the whole Aryan theory that the Aryans brought Hinduism into the Indian subcontinent. A major US study was carried out by Penn State University in America, and they found that 100% of Europeans share a gene mutation. This gene mutation is found in 100% of Europeans, Middle Eastern people, as well as those in the Indian subcontinent, including Pakistan and Bangladesh. Now, it is closely related to the Indo-European languages. This mutation changes just one block of the protein and actually contributes to the different skin tones found in different people. This gene mutation was traced back to over 10,000 years ago to a single person living around the Indian subcontinent and the Middle Eastern area. Even though the gene mutation is found mostly with the northern Indians, it's also found within the southern Indians. Now, the Hindu scriptures do talk about those coming from the north into the south during the invasion from the Middle East into the Indian subcontinent.
On that side of the river are so afraid of the Agori.
Try to understand the Agoris. Now, they're someone that basically is detachment from fear, detachment from the world, and detachment from materialism. Now, Agor literally translates to basically someone from the other house. In Hinduism, you have the 4 states of consciousness. Now, the Aghoris have transcended these 4 states of consciousness and become one with the divine, hence they do not take any karmas and are just walking past this life. They have transcended these 4 states of consciousness, they have transcended duality, and everything around them will perish. Hence they do follow cannibalism, but they do not kill. The Aghoris' ways are very difficult. Now they have to overcome not just the 3 states of consciousness, but the 4th state of consciousness. Now within Hinduism, they are known as the 5th incarnation of Shiva. Now it's said that within this time period, they are a reminder to mankind as well, not to get too attached to life. What were the ancient Indians using as a measuring system before the kilogram? Now the ancient Indians were trading all around the world. They were trading with Mesopotamia as well as the Far East, etc. So how were they measuring their goods? Now the ancient Indians had the rati system. Now the word rati comes from raktika in Sanskrit, now which is a ganja seed. Now 8 of these ratis made up 1 masha. Now 12 of these mashas made up 1 tola, so on till you got to kilogram. Further along down in history, the Mughals came into the Indian subcontinent. Now they had to bring in their own standard weight system to collect revenue from the farmers as well as different sources around the Indian subcontinent. The Mughals brought in the baht system. The baht system became the seer system, which is similar to the standard weights you see around the world today. Further along down the line, the British came into the Indian subcontinent. Now those who were assigned to India had to take the current measuring system and transfer it to the known system by the British. And that's when the British and the Europeans brought in the pound system to collect the resources out of India into Europe. But it wasn't the British or the Mughals who invented the weight system. The earliest records of the weight system is actually found in the Indus-Saraswati Valley civilization. Now it's found that this weight system was transferred over to Persia, where they advanced it as well. This weight system from the Indus-Saraswati Valley civilization is actually based on the rati system, which is found in Hindu scriptures as well.
Hinduism is actually an ethno-religion. Hindus are the largest ethno-religious group in the world.
Firstly, Hinduism is not known as Hinduism by its people. It's known as Sanatana Dharma, those who practice the eternal law, the universal principles. The name Hindu came from the river Sindhu for those people that practice Sanatana Dharma beyond that region. The Vedic scriptures mentions the rivers from east to west, and it mentions great ships on these rivers. Now in other scriptures it mentions the northern region as Aryavarta and the southern region as Dravidia. Other Hindu scriptures mentions great kingdoms throughout the Indian subcontinent. Now a lot of Indians claim lineage to this chart behind me. Now this chart also has Nepal in there as well, so different ethnicities. By looking at this, we can see that it was an ancient civilization. Now Sanatana Dharma is about finding a relationship with nature as well as finding a relationship within yourself as well, and trying to find out who you are, part of the whole universal structure. The Dharma is also found in Bali, where it said that southern Indians basically introduced it through sea trading or through the royals. King Sora from Southeast Korea lived around 50 AD. Now the Korean scriptures mentions that he married a princess from a kingdom called Ayutthaya, which points to India. As you can see, it's very complex to look at Hinduism based off a Western concept of ethno-religion. Now anyone can practice Hinduism, but it's also there not to interrupt those who already have a relationship with nature.
Many Hindu diaspora spoke up.
So something was brought to my attention.
Then it reached the Indian media. Indians from India traced the shop to Shopify to make complaints. Then the designer went private on social media. The collection was taken down. Till the next one.
Be a land bridge connecting India to the northwestern coast of Sri Lanka, where elephants likely traveled. And records say that the bridge, called Adam's Bridge, was above sea level until...
Let's talk about Adam's Bridge. I mean Ram Setu. Now the name Adam's Bridge was given in 1804 by a British cartographer who named the bridge Adam's Bridge. But let's look at its historical context. Now the land bridge originally is known as Ram Setu by its indigenous religion of Sanatan Dharma, which is aka Hinduism. Now, the land bridge is mentioned in the Hindu epic the Ramayana, which is based on the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, Lord Ram. Now it's said that whenever Dharma is declining on earth, Lord Vishnu will incarnate to bring back the balance on Earth. Now the bridge itself is mentioned in the epic Ramayana, and it's mentioned on how it's made by its sizing as well as what material to be used, etc. Hence this bridge is also known as Nala Setu within Hinduism. Now the Ramayana is actually disputed on its dating. Did it happen 7,000 years ago or did it happen 11,000 years ago, depending on astronomical dating as well as archaeological evidence. But is there any proof behind this bridge being man-made? Let's take a look.
There are stones that have been brought from afar and set on top of our sandbar island chain.
Now that was from the Discovery Science Channel from 2017, who carried out research on the land bridge, and they found that the rocks actually predate the sand below it. Now in the Hindu epic, the Ramayana, it is mentioned that these rocks were placed there by writing Lord Rama's name over it. Now these rocks are found within the region that are said to be floating. Now these could be volcanic rocks because they do actually float as well. Now looking into the dispute about the elephants, did they cross over the land bridge or did they swim over? Now within the Hindu epic, the Ramayana, it is mentioned that elephants existed in Lanka when Ram crossed over, but these elephants are said to have 4 tusks which went extinct a long time ago. Now just recently, research has been approved by the Indian government to carry out research using a radiometric technique on this land bridge to carry out the dating of these rocks as well as what's underneath the rocks as well. Now regardless of the dating, the bridge should always be called Ram Setu and not Adam's Bridge. These yogis are known as the Aghori sadhus, but they are not the Naga sadhus. So who are the Naga sadhus? The Naga sadhus are another set of ancient yogis from India. Now the word Naga comes from Sanskrit meaning mountain. Regardless the name Naga, they do actually go around with no clothes on, and they do actually live within the Himalayas. The only time they come out from their secluded areas is for a festival called the Kumbh Mela, which happens every 12 years, which is the biggest human gathering in the world. In recent years, there has been an influx of women becoming Naga sadhus, and they come from all around the world to become Naga sadhus. They are famously known to worship Dhuni, which is the holy fire, which is a representation of Shiv Shakti. Due to the Islamic invasion of the subcontinent, when many temples were torn down, these sadhus were trained in combat, and these are just some of the weapons that they carry to fight off the invaders. During the British colonization, the British were so intrigued by these sadhus who attended the Kumbh Mela and actually just disappeared after, so they set their spies to go and follow them. The British set one spy after one sadhu who followed them into jungles as well as the Himalayas, and the yogis just disappeared.